Welcome back, hockey fans, to Off the Iron podcast. It's the Goodwin boys, Adam
and Evan,
back at it with another episode. This one's going to be jam-packed with content, all the good stuff, COVID, injuries, trade requests, all that fun stuff.
COVID's on the good list?
Yeah, I guess so. That's not really a good thing, is it?
Not really.
But before we get to all that, just a quick reminder that Off the Iron is brought to you by Rocky Mountain Barbecue Catering. Drop by their storefront to pick yourself up a lunch combo with any one of their signature smoked meat, sausages, or burgers with 2 sides and a drink for just $12. Open 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. on weekdays. Go visit them at 5303 68th Avenue, Southeast Calgary. Also, don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms on Facebook and Instagram at Off the Iron Podcast, on Twitter at Off the Iron Pod. Also, check out our YouTube channel, Off the Iron Podcast, and our Gmail. Get at us with any topics or suggestions you want us to talk about on the show, offtheironpodcast@gmail.com. All right. So now that we got that out of the way, like we said, lots of big stuff to talk about. Evan's going to give us a little rundown. But before that, what's been going on, Evan?
Not a heck of a lot, actually. COVID times, of course, so can't really do much of anything outside of the house. Very fortunate to still have a job, so been quite busy at work, been a little stressful there. It's trying to do 3 people's job, unfortunately, but not complaining, happy to be employed. But yeah, no, just taking it easy, watching some hockey, watching a little Netflix, that sort of thing. Just got into all the seasons of Top Gear are now on Amazon Video, Prime Video. So I've been going through those. Some of the old ones are pretty funny, and they're talking about cars that are like just junk now. So kind of funny. But yeah, no, just surviving. How about you?
Same here, working and watching hockey pretty much. And playing some Call of Duty. That's been good.
Nice. Yeah, I actually downloaded NHL 21 too for a little video game action. Ooh. First time I played video games in like years. I suck.
I was gonna say, when's the last time you played? Probably The Last of Us, or not The Last of Us. Uncharted was probably the last games you played, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I play a little bit more than you do, so maybe I'll have to download NHL 21. We'll have a little gaming session.
Yeah, there we go. That'd be fun. Yeah, tells you how much I game. There was like a 2-inch layer of dust on top of my PS4 when I got it upstairs. So,
and of course, since the last time you've gamed, all the new consoles have come out.
Yep.
I haven't picked myself one up, largely in part because I don't have the TV to run with it. So,
yeah,
no point in playing on a PS5 on a 60 hertz TV. So. But yeah, we got lots of stuff coming up. You want to give us a little rundown of what we're going to talk about today? Got lots of Flames news and then lots of news from around the league.
Yeah, sure. Just run down the episode today. Obviously, we're starting it off with our Flames Focus segment. Another inconsistent week for the Flames. Of course, there's the Bennett saga going on. Mm-hmm. We're going to touch on a few coaching decisions that have happened over the last week that a lot of people are up in arms about, and then also prepping everyone for the first installment of the COVID season Battle of Alberta. So that's tonight at 8:00. I should say we're recording this episode at 2:30 in the afternoon on Saturday, so it's before the game. Looking forward to it tonight. That's going to be a hell of a game. Hopefully. It's close. After our Flames Focus, we're going to go into our North Division Roundup, a recap, talk about some teams that are doing quite well and some teams that aren't doing quite well. Following that, we take our weekly trip around the league, talking about some of the surprises and disappointments from the NHL over the past week. COVID wreaking havoc. Mackinnon going down for some time, which is not good news for the Avalanche, and a few milestones to talk about as well that happened in the NHL this week. Also wanted to touch on the new Team Canada GM for the 2022 Olympics. And we're going to finish off our news section from around the league with a little bit of talk on Black History Month and Willie O'Ree getting his number retired in Boston. And then, like always, at least this season of Off the Iron, we're going to close out the podcast with our OTI top 5 list section. This time we're going non-hockey related. We're going to go with our top 5 lists of Super Bowl snacks in honor of the Super Bowl coming up here tomorrow, actually. Oh man, that came up fast. Yeah. So Adam and I will run down our top 5 Super Bowl snack list at the end.
Didn't take long for this podcast to revert to food talk.
Goes hand in hand with sports.
Exactly. And of course, Super Bowl weekend is here. The big game is tomorrow. We'll get into maybe some predictions when we're doing the Super Bowl snacks as well. What we think of the game. Obviously, I think this is going to be an all-time game just because of the matchup, but looking forward to that later in the show. Do you want to hop right into the Flames focus here?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. As we mentioned off the top, another inconsistent week for the Flames. Story of our lives, right? Another 2 wins and another 2 rather ugly losses. Started off the week.
Uncompetitive losses is the key word there. They just look like
lack of compete. Emotionless would be another one. But Flames did start off the week, or since our last episode, in the right direction. They did have a 2-0 win over Montreal last Sunday, I believe. It was Saturday, and then a back-to-back Monday, Tuesday, a shootout win and a regulation loss against Winnipeg. So, Winnipeg seems to be our bogey team this year. I don't know. We haven't done so well against them.
Yeah, there's a lot of people freaking out, especially on the Flames Twitterverse right now about, the Flames losing, getting to an overtime point from Winnipeg, and then finally a victory against Winnipeg in the shootout thanks to a gorgeous move from Johnny Gaudreau. And then, of course, dropping the next 2 games to Winnipeg. But I think Winnipeg was the dark horse this year. I mean, you and I had them as finishing 4th or 5th in this division because we just weren't sure if we were going to see what we're going to see between the pipes, whether Hellebuck was going to regress a little bit, which he hasn't been himself. He has let in a few softies, that's for sure, but his team's been able to bail him out more often than not.
Chris Tanev is thanking him especially.
Yeah, no kidding. The goal from the blue line, that was hilarious for the first goal ever as a Flame.
Yeah.
But it looks like the Winnipeg's for real. I mean, especially with Dubois coming on. Their next game against Calgary, I think, is Monday, and Dubois is probably going to be in the lineup for that. But they're a good team. A lot of people wrote them off a little bit, just because there is not a lot of known commodities on their blue line. But Pionk, man, he's turning into be a pretty damn good defenseman. I don't think that was anticipated. And of course, they still have Morrissey, so they still have pieces on the back end for sure in Winnipeg, and they're a lot better than people give them credit for. Because forward depth wise on Winnipeg, I think they're one of the most talented teams in the NHL. I mean, look at their top 6; it's crazy. And when you got Kyle Connor going at the pace he's going right now, I mean, look out. So the Flames. Flames Twitter needs to hit the pause button a little bit. It's not as bad as people are making it out to be. There's a few things that need adjustments. Absolutely. Anytime you see your team give a consistent lack of effort over the first part of the season, it points to something being a little bit off, but it's not as bad as people think. And I got a few stats that I'll get into in a little bit here, but it's Flamesy. They never start the season good.
And you did mention that you have some stats going back all the way to 2014, 2015 when Gaudreau first joined the core here about how the Flames are starting. And I mean, the luxury that the Flames have right now is they do have games in hand on everyone in the Scotia North Division. Some teams, they only have 1 game in hand, but especially on Edmonton, we have 2 games in hand, and Edmonton's 4th place in the division right now. So these 10 games, these 10 Battle of Albertas are going to be huge. The season could come down to that, basically, when you think about it. I mean, technically Vancouver is ahead of us right now, but we do have 4 games in hand on them. So you'd like
we
to
played Vancouver 4 times in a row.
Yeah.
After we play Winnipeg again. So
yeah. So you'd like to see them at least make up some of that ground. But go ahead. You were going to say something.
Well, I was going to say, just go over the stats that I have. So yeah, I did a little peek back over the last, let's see, what is it, 6 or 7 years here that this core has been in place. So I started the first year Gaudreau was on the team full time. So the 2014-2015 season and ended with this most recent season. Just did a look back over the first 10 games for all of those seasons. And guess what? We're right on pace for where we were those last 6 or 7 years. There's a few outliers, the 15-16 season where we only had 2 wins after 10 games. And then, but even on the year, in like the 18-19 season when we finished first in the Pacific, we're right on pace for where we were even in that season. So people are freaking out. So just point totals, just let me run through this. For the 14-15 season, we had 11 points after 10 games. For the next season, 5 points. That's the outlier. That was the shitty season where we didn't do much of anything.
And it ended up getting us Tkachuk in the draft the following summer. So
it did, yes. 16th and 17th season, we had 9 points. That's what we have now. 17 and 18, 18 and 19, we both had 10. And then last year at this point, we had 11. So we're 2 points behind our pace. It's not a panic button push here, guys. We're only 1 game below 500. We're 4-5-1, and that is flamesy. That's what they do. They suck in October. Now October is January this year. Guess what they do? November they go on a tear. So I looked back over the last 20 and 30 games too at winning percentages over the last. And for the first 10 games, it varies. Average of the 7 seasons that this core has kind of been together is 42%. We're right on pace for that. But after 20 games, the average goes up to 50% for winning percentage. And then after 30 games, the average is up to 55, 60%. So calm down. We're on trend. This is Flames. This is flamesy.
Very flamesy.
And we have the talent on this team to turn it around. So I'm not hitting the panic button like a lot of people are out there. I know a lot of people are upset about some of the coaching decisions that have been made that may have been responsible for us not, being able to make a push to come back in there. But what were your thoughts of the week that was? I think the only reason we had any points in those games was Markstrom.
Yeah, especially that game against Montreal. The Flames got heavily outplayed. So you got your stats. I got my stats here in terms of individual games. So the Flames-Canadiens game, won't dive too deep into it, but all you need to know, high danger chances. The Flames were high danger outchanced 17-4 that night.
Thank you, Markstrom.
Yes, exactly. And expected goals that night were 2.76 for Montreal, 1.23 for Calgary. So Markstrom put the team on his back in that game. I still think the Flames responded better. Like they put in, I thought the compete level was higher in that game.
The compete level was definitely higher for sure.
I mean, obviously it couldn't get much worse after that 4-2 Flames loss to the Habs the day before, or the couple days before that one. But I think they had a good game in the first game against the Jets. I don't think they were spectacular, but they did. A trend of the Flames this season is falling behind by 2 goals. They were able to recover in that game, winning the shootout, as you mentioned, that gorgeous shootout winner by Johnny Gaudreau, and they actually flipped the script in that game. They actually had 17 high danger chances, and the Jets only had 4. Now, of course, the Jets scored 3 times, so that's an issue. But Markstrom, once again,
one time around the power play.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The penalty kill is killing the Flames a little bit right now. Whether some of the penalties are deserved, I know Dubé had a call in these games that was absolutely brutal. Don't know what the ref was thinking on that one. And then, of course, Ward benches him for it, which is a whole nother story. I mean, I get that he took 2 penalties, but the second one was just an awful, awful call. So I don't really get that benching. And then moving on to the second of the 3 games against the Jets here. pretty even in terms of high danger chances, but Riddick was in net and had a bit of a rough start. I don't really blame him for the goals necessarily.
There's one.
Yeah, the second one was a little.
He moved completely out of the net.
Yeah, that one was questionable, but recovered nicely, settled in, but the Flames just couldn't recover in time, and then obviously the 4-1 loss to the Jets on Thursday.
Lackluster, not competitive, no compete, nothing.
Yeah, emotionless. And I tweeted out from the Off the Iron account. I'm just going to bring it up, but lots and lots of actually one storyline to come out of that game is an injury to Derek Ryan. Looked like a shot. He blocked a shot and it went right off his hand. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably a fractured hand, something like that.
Looked like his thumb was pretty messed up.
Yeah, maybe some fingers broken there, but just lots and lots of sloppy play. And one player in particular that I want to mention, I did put out a tweet from the Off the Iron account about this player. Michael Backlund was an absolute passenger in that game. He was just coasting everywhere around the ice. He doesn't seem like he's into it this year. He's off to a decent start. I think he's got 5 points in 11 games, which isn't horrible, but it's not the best. But he was an absolute passenger in that game. He was just coasting out there. And then, he complains about getting slashed on the goal that he gave the puck away. I didn't see much there. I don't know what you thought about it.
No, I didn't see it slashed. There's nothing wrong with that play.
So I put out the tweet, slash or no slash, and then in brackets, I didn't see much of a slash there. That's a brutal giveaway by Backlund. He hasn't looked himself at all this year. Just seems like his head's not in the game. I don't know if you've noticed that from Backlund too.
Well, there's a few players that I don't think their heads are in the game. And I think, honestly, it might be a symptom of being on the road in this COVID era because they can't do anything. They're stuck in their hotel rooms.
Yeah.
That would wear on you after a while, especially after 4 or 5 games. A week and a half of staring at a hotel room wall, not being able to do anything. Granted, they're getting paid millions of dollars. Yes, I get that. But still, that would be extremely challenging trying to stay invested and trying to stay involved, especially because I know Backlund has a young daughter at home too, and stuff like that. So I'm sure it was tough on him, but it's not an excuse. You have to find, and the Flames in general and the coaching staff have to find a way to get that team motivated every game because it's not an excuse. Yeah, you're not going to be able to get the motivation from the fans like you usually do. So you got to find a way to start the game on time and show up and have some passion, have some effort because everyone else in the North Division, maybe outside of Ottawa, is doing it. So you have to do it. I did not know that Ward benched Dubé though. After that penalty.
Yeah, after the second penalty. Didn't play a shift the rest of the game, if I'm not mistaken. So, he was right back in the lineup the next night. So, and the Flames did end up winning that game. So, not the biggest story, but just kind of one of those things where he was sort of the victim of a really bad call. But I think he rebounded nicely in the next game. So, I think that one is sort of buried itself. But some more awful decisions by Jeff Ward. In what universe does it make sense to put Joachim Nordstrom on the same line as Johnny Gaudreau and Sean Monahan? I know he was a little bit handcuffed because Ryan had the injury and they were down a forward, but in what universe does that make sense? I'm at the point where I just want to fire Joachim Nordstrom right into the sun. Just for all this talk about being a defensive specialist, a PK specialist, what's been awful this year? The PK, and he's had numerous brutal giveaways in our own zone that have led to goals.
Yeah, he's been awful.
He needs to take a seat.
He should have been riding the pine probably 4 games ago.
Yeah, exactly. And also, this in particular isn't on Jeff Ward, but if Dominic Simone and Josh Leva want to contribute anything, that would be nice.
Yeah.
They're just kind of I'm trying not to go into full panic mode, because I realize it's still early, even though it is a shortened season, and they still got lots of time to make this up, as we mentioned the games in hand. But there's just some concerning trends, especially with some of the depth on this team. Johnny and Sean Monahan have been excellent this year. There's no complaints about them. They've been carrying this team offensively, but they need help. Kachuk, the past few games, ever since Muzzin flipped the puck at him, hasn't been the same player. He's been a passenger most nights.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's not been the same. And I don't know what happened, obviously, in the players only meeting after that game. But I have a feeling they were saying things like, Kachuk, we appreciate your passion, but you can't start a fucking riot every single game. Stuff like that. So I wonder if he's been told to tone it down a little bit, which that's a stupid coaching decision if you tell him to do that, because you're taking away 3/4 of his game. I mean, if he's not getting under people's skin, if he's not out there throwing his body around, he's not effective. He's slow. He's not a great skater, but he has extremely high hockey IQ. So he needs to be mucking it up. He needs to be getting under people's skin, and he needs to be getting those rebound goals and coming off the half wall and finding people in front of the net. If you tell him to stop that, you might as well put him on the bench, because he's not going to be any good.
No, I agree. That's sort of how he gets his emotions going, is by playing that rough game, that, as we mentioned in our previous top 5, that rat/pest mentality that he has. That's when he's at his best. Because as you mentioned, not the greatest skater. Can't take over a game with his speed. He can take over a game with his mind. He's incredibly shifty with the puck and very smart, and just always seems to make the right play. But like I said, the past few games just hasn't been effective out there.
He was chirping a lot at the referees in that Winnipeg game too, which you could tell he was just off.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, we should probably get into, we haven't mentioned yet the other Flames headline. Elliot Friedman reporting on Headlines last Saturday that he reached out to Sam Bennett's agent, who alluded to him that Sam Bennett would welcome a change of scenery. Now, I didn't take that as Bennett has demanded a trade, because we have seen him play a game since then, and he's still going out there. He's playing. He's not being unprofessional like a Dubois was in his final game as a Columbus Blue Jacket. But what are your thoughts on Bennett requesting a change of scenery, and how you see this sort of resolving itself out as a healthy scratch in the last game, which apparently Jeff Ward didn't tell him prior to the game. He kind of just found out last minute. But
another shitty coaching decision there.
Yeah.
Well, I got 3 words for you. No shit, Sherlock. Of course, he's going to be requesting a trade or a change of scenery, because he's not getting played here in Calgary. They still have not given him a role to play consistently. You can't give a guy a role and then yoink it back after 1 or 2 games.
Yeah.
It's just, he's not been put in a position to succeed here. But that being said, he hasn't actually lit the world on fire either. So some of those lack of roles and being on the 3rd and 4th line is on him too. Like, he has to be better. He's tailor-made for the playoffs, like always, because the whistles get put away in the playoffs. And Bennett is just crazy, just bang and crash, throw his body around, and he does have hands too, so he can't put the puck in the net. That's why he leads our team all the time in the playoffs. But in the regular season, that's not going to happen. It's the whistles. That's why he gets too many penalties, because he plays the same way he does in the playoffs, and he takes penalties because the whistles are out there now. So that's on him. He has to figure out a way to be effective without taking the penalties. But he also has to be put with people other than Lucic and Nordstrom and Levo and, the bottom 6 where he's played the last 3 years. Like,
yeah.
But having said all that, it's time to move on from Sam Bennett, because I'm sick of talking about the guy. And honestly, he sounds like a good guy, but
Yeah.
Get something back for him. He's not.
Yeah.
He doesn't fit here. We've given him 6 or 7 years to fit, and he hasn't fit in yet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, he's one of those guys. Like, I never question the effort level on him. He's a battler and he has that mentality. But you know, there. I like the way Ryan Pinder from the morning show sort of summed it up. There's blood on both hands here.
yeah, for sure.
From Bennett and the team. When Jeff Ward was asked in the summer, where's Sam Bennett going to play? He responded with one word: center, 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 center. He's going to be a center. And then 2 periods into this season, he's back on the wing. Like, how do you expect him to react? And I know that, and then it falls back on Bennett too, because like you can't just be handed a top 6 role when the top 6 centers on this team are Lindholm and Monahan. You're not better than them at center ice. And are you better than Michael Backlund at center ice, who's been one of the most consistent two-way forwards for the Flames over the past 6 seasons? I think
he might be.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair point, but Backlund finished 4th in Selke voting a few years ago, so it's like, are you really going to out-duel him? And then, even Derek Ryan has been better than him as a bottom 6 center over the past couple of years. So I think, as I said, it goes both ways. Bennett, while being a little bit mismanaged for sure, has not done anything to warrant being in a top 6 position for an extended period of time.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, it's a frustrating situation as a fan because you can see the potential, and they're still in Sam Bennett, but I'm of the camp that I don't think he's ever going to get there. So, it is what it is.
You kind of are who you are at this point. I think he's 24, something like that, 24, 25. So I think the time it's time to move on from him. Now the biggest question is, what kind of return can you get? And in this world right now, expansion draft looming, COVID, I mean, that's like trading in between teams is going to be hard, quarantine, all that. Are you going to get a player that's going to help you now? Or is it a pick and prospect kind of deal? I don't think the return is going to be huge on Sam Bennett at all. I think it's going to be sort of our problem for another team's problem. I haven't really looked at specific scenarios. I know the rumors were flying out there a little bit of Virtanen for Bennett, which I don't think is a good deal for either side. I mean, Virtanen in a full normal year last year would have scored 20 goals. So right there, you would think his value is already higher than Bennett's. But obviously there's some issues with Virtanen in terms of, maturity and desire and stuff like that, that have been sort of floating out there. So I don't know. I mean, obviously I think this is going to end with Bennett not being in a Flames uniform, but I don't know where or for how much we get rid of him for. So yeah, that's sort of unfortunate that that's the way it's gone, but nevertheless, that's where we are.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see if he plays tonight. I know Jeff Ward is being very coy on this and is not saying if Bennett's in the lineup or not. Maybe that's so it doesn't become a distraction. He said, we'll have to wait till tonight and see. So, which I don't like, but anyways, let's shift focus away from Bennett. It's an unfortunate situation. Hopefully it resolves itself sooner than later. I just have a feeling he's going to switch teams and just freaking light it up like usual for Flames fans. But let's move on to Jeff Ward and talk about some of these coaching decisions that have been made over the last 4-5 games that have people really shaking their heads. And I'll throw it to you to start out there.
Yeah, and just the number one thing is his it's almost comical the way that he thinks the way to fix the chemistry is to promote the 3rd and 4th liners up to the top 2 lines. Like Lucic and Nordstrom getting elevated in the lineup makes absolutely no sense. Nordstrom provides 0 offensive value to this team, and I would argue 0 defensive value right now, even though that's what he was heralded as. So he should be a healthy scratch for sure right now. I don't get the healthy scratching of Bennett. He's been better than Nordstrom by far. I get that there's the argument that, oh, he's requested out, so why would you play him? But Bennett's the type of guy that he's still going to go out there and give 100%. Whether he's going to be effective with that 100% effort is another question, but he's definitely going to be better than Joachim Nordstrom. And they just have to start limiting some of these bottom six guys' ice time. Lucic, I know there's the history with him. They won a cup together and they're attached at the hip, but Lucic has to play less. It's just he's not an effective NHL player to be playing more than 8-10 minutes a night right now, and especially not on the power play. I'm just and late in games too. Like Lucic and Nordstrom have been out there in the final couple minutes when we're down a goal, we need a goal. And I get sometimes that, the top two lines might need a rest to give that push for the final minute and a half or whatever. But it just, in what world does it make sense to have Lucic or Nordstrom on the ice in the final minutes when you need a goal?
It doesn't. And that's what is infuriating as a Flames fan. When you see, Nordstrom and Lucic getting elevated to top line minutes with 10 minutes to go or 15 minutes to go in the third period, you just shake your head because it's not like Lucic is lighting the world on fire. Yes, he has 2 goals. Yay. But he's not going to get you much more than that. But, in Lucic's credit, when he's going, he can definitely take over a game. When he's banging and crashing and he's got jump in his step, he can definitely provide a spark for sure. And I know, the knock on Edmonton was they did not play him enough so he could generate that spark because they put him on the fourth line and he played like 3 minutes a game. They, the Flames didn't do that last year. And actually, Ryan, Dubé, and Lucic was one of our best lines last year. They were putting the puck in the net. Their analytics were all in favor of the offense, like offensive pressure, moving the puck the other way. But that's not the case this year. He's another year older, and he's fucking slow. He is one of the slowest people I've ever seen out there on an NHL surface.
And he's not playing with Dubé anymore.
He's not playing with Dubé anymore. Yeah, and then when you exaggerate the lack of skill on the other side, because Lucic's goals last year were perfect feeds from Dubé for the most part on all of them, and you got a defensive-minded, pretty good two-way center in Derek Ryan that's playing next to him too. So some of his gaffes are covered. But when Nordstrom's there, you got one of the 2 worst puck handling people on the team, and they're a turnover machine. It's just every team's fourth line just dummies our fourth line right now. Yeah. And Markstrom can't save everything. Eventually, those are going to go in the net, especially as fatigue starts to set in this fast-paced season. But what baffles me the most is Jeff Ward does not know how to make an in-game adjustment to strategy. And unfortunately, that is going to bite the Flames in the ass this season, because when you are playing a team 4 times in a row, like a mini playoff series, you have to be able to adjust mid-game. Simple, plain and simple. The old dump and chase. So, RD is doing a pretty good job this year. I'm quite impressed with RD, minus a few games where they were turnover machines. And Gio needs to be better too, but they can get the puck out of our own pretty good, or our own zone pretty good. But then the strategy for the last 2 games against Winnipeg is chip it in, dump and chase. No adjustment at all. And Winnipeg figured that out in the first period of the first game and have just shut it down. And there's no adjustment. It was dump and chase, dump and chase, dump and chase. You have skill on this team. You don't need to dump and chase all the time. Third and fourth line, dump and chase, bang and crash. Top 2 lines, let's start to carry the puck over the blue line and try and circle at the half wall a little bit and get some offensive zone time. But you got to start adjusting it, and that's what's infuriating me as a Flames fan. It's just like, come on, buddy, you're getting out coached by Paul Maurice left, right, and center.
And that's sort of been
starting Johnny and Monty in the defensive zone and shit like that too.
Yeah, a huge red flag is that he seems to be out of his depth at times, which is not. I mean, this is the coach you hired. I'm not sure what the organization's orders were for True Living. Like, did they he said that they had the budget to go spend on a big coach, but did they want to in this sort of economic climate? And, he was the interim last year, so maybe a little bit continuity, but he seems to just make some amateur decisions. Like, he didn't really start playing Johnny and Sean in the offensive zone until a lot of people were griping about it. In the media, and sort of some Flames beat writers, just writing articles about why Johnny and Monty were getting so many defensive zone starts. And now Tkachuk, Lindholm, and Dubé are getting those starts against other teams' top lines and in the defensive zone. And look what's happened. Johnny and Monty look like their normal selves again. So it's just some tough decisions, some amateur decisions, in my opinion. But, like we said, it's still early. Hopefully they can figure it out. But yeah, that's sort of where I sit right now.
Yeah. So it baffles me. And the one that never bit us, that really baffles me, is putting Josh Levo as third in the shootout over Gaudreau.
Mm-hmm.
That makes no sense at all. Like,
yeah,
I know Johnny's not fantastic at the shootout, but he was buzzing that game. Like, that was a dumb coaching decision.
Yeah, there must have been something behind the scenes there where they did something in practice, but who knows? Of course, it didn't pay off, and Levo had a pretty awful attempt.
Yeah.
So luckily, Johnny cleaned up the mess in the next shooter. But
yeah, let's move on. I could talk about bad coaching all day long, but
onward and upward. We get the Battle of Alberta tonight, and I just want to mention that this is going to be huge. So we'll move into the rest of the North Division roundup here, but it's kind of taking shape right now, the North Division. It looks like the top three are going to be Toronto, Montreal, and Winnipeg. And then, in my opinion, it's going to be Edmonton, Calgary, and Vancouver battling for that last spot. Only one of them is going to make it out of the West. The three West teams here, Ottawa is definitely out of it. But these games against the Oilers and Canucks are going to be so crucial. Every game pretty much is now a must win against those two teams in particular. Still got to do well against the other teams, but at this point, they look like they're the top three in the division.
Yeah, I mean, we got to keep in mind that Calgary has not played any games against Ottawa yet. Mm-hmm. So there's that. Not saying that that's a given, but, most of those teams have had 2 or 3 games against the Sens already and are spotted, 4 or 6 points. So that you have to keep that in mind. Mm-hmm. But Calgary has only played the cream of the crop in our division so far. Outside of the 2 games against the Canucks. They played Winnipeg like 5 times already. They played Toronto twice and they played Montreal twice. So, and key thing to take away is we're just below 500 in those games. And we had no puck luck for about 3 of them. So it's not as bad as people are thinking. I do expect the Flames to actually finish 3rd or 2nd in this division once they get their shit together. They have games in hand on everybody, at least one on everybody. And they're playing against the top teams in the division. And it's early in the season. It's Flames. That's what they do. How many times do I have to say that? It sucks as a Flames fan, always getting behind the 8 ball. But this is Flames. They're going to go on a tear. Believe me. I'm predicting it. Hot take. They're going to go on a winning streak here.
And those games against Ottawa, like, you cannot lose any points against Ottawa with the way they've been playing. Like, I know, like, if you lose in regulation to Ottawa in any of your games, it's going to come back to bite us at the end of the season, for sure. But like we said, lots of time still. You do have the most important matchups with Vancouver and Edmonton still to come. 10 starting tonight against Edmonton, and I believe 8 more against Vancouver. So you gotta make hay in those games. So looking forward to tonight. Going to be a good one. The Cassie and Tkachuk friendship tour is being renewed.
I think that's a little bit overplayed and played out. Yeah. We'll see what happens. Obviously, if there's some chippiness in the game, then it might get ramped back up again. But I'd be curious to see, is Koskinen or Smith starting in goal tonight?
Going to be Koskinen, I assume. I still think Smith is out with I'm not sure if it was an injury or some family troubles or something, but We haven't seen Mike Smith in a game yet. We've seen Stuart Skinner be the backup and start. I think he started one game, so I assume it's going to be Koskinen tonight. And of course, Markstrom in net for the Flames. So it's going to be a good one. Hockey Night in Canada tonight. Can't wait. And hopefully the Flames show up for this one. If you can't get up for this one,
then you have a problem.
Yes, for sure. I think Matthew Tkachuk kind of came out and said that today. So hopefully we see good things tonight.
Yeah, so Battle Alberta, one thing we got to mention is Flames will be wearing their reverse retro for the first time, the Blasty.
As you're repping right now?
As I'm repping, I'm repping the old school 2004 jersey. The Blasty patches on the shoulders.
Yeah.
This jersey was actually in the building for a few of those playoff victories in 2004. So still kind of smells like beer.
You get the heroin beers in there.
I don't know if it's been washed yet.
The smooth scent of Molson Canadian.
Yeah. Definitely repping the jersey. So hopefully I'm a little bit superstitious. Can't do what I did the last couple games because it hasn't worked. So I'm switching it up. But I'm going to be honest. I'm a little worried about the Flames in this game because Edmonton's rolling right now. They're giving up a lot of goals, but they're scoring like 8, 7, 6 goals a game. So
Draisaitl and McDavid are back to normal.
And I mean,
we're not normal, but
our goaltending like in Markstrom is pretty solid. But our defensive zone coverage lately has been junk. Like there's people all over the place that aren't being covered. So I'm a little worried about McJesus and his German brother running away with things. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully they can tighten up defensively and shut those guys down. But I mean, couldn't think of anything better to do tonight. So
let's go.
Then Battle Alberta. Let's go. Exactly.
All right. So anything else you want to talk about in the North Division in particular? Vancouver obviously struggling heavily right now. Just a little quick stat for you. I know the Canucks have played 4 more games than the Flames, so this comes with a little bit of an asterisk, but by far the most goals allowed in the North Division, 55 goals in 14 games. Flames have only allowed 27 in 10. So a little bit of a discrepancy there. They've even actually allowed more goals in Ottawa. So let that sink in.
Yeah, I mean, Vancouver got blown out a couple times by Montreal. That's why that goal total's up there.
Tyler Toffoli, how are you, Canucks?
Yeah, how are you now, as the Spit and Chicklets boys would say. No, he's been a Canuck killer. So I know Jim Benning is taking a lot of heat for that. But no, I think the North Division is shaping down as a lot of people expected. I think Montreal is a little bit of a surprise. I knew they'd be a lot better this year for sure. I didn't predict them to be as dominant as they have been so far. But I mean, you put a pretty solid effort and a pretty solid team in front of Carey Price, you're going to have a pretty good team. But they look good. They look good.
I'll jump in on Montreal there for a little bit. I definitely underestimated them. I said that they could be good if everything gelled. I just thought that, with them being the lineup being quite different. Anderson, is he going to be healthy? Toffoli, is he going to carry on his form from Vancouver after being sort of just okay in LA the past couple of seasons? But they've hit the ground running. Suzuki and Kotkaniemi in particular.
I was going to say Suzuki.
Yeah, they're going to be the top 2 centers in Montreal for a while, and obviously Carey Price has been stellar, and the back end has been super good. So I definitely underestimated them a little bit. I actually had them missing the playoffs in our predictions just because of all those changes. Could they come together and gel? But they have done that and more. Currently sitting atop the North Division with 18 points in 12 games, just ahead of Toronto. But that's sort of where I'm sitting on Montreal. They look really good. They did lose to Ottawa the other night, but rebounded today with a 2-1 win over Ottawa. So right back in the driver's seat in the top spot. But
I mean, the Leafs look pretty damn good too. Austin Matthews is looking phenomenal this year. Marner,
Jason Spezza looking like old Jason Spezza too.
Yeah, for 1 or 2 games.
Yeah,
but they're getting the goaltending too in Toronto, which has helped for sure. Jack Campbell and Anderson's been dynamite. Yep. I mean, Campbell's out now with an injury, but he played. I mean, he's the reason why they stole 2 points from us. So, yeah, I mean, and Edmonton's rounding the form too. They had a rough start, like similar to the Flames, but they're trending in the right direction. They've won 4 in a row, or 3 in a row, sorry, and they've looked dominant in all 3 of those games. So it'll be an interesting meeting this evening. But yeah, I don't think there's really much else to sum up. Winnipeg is sneaking up there. I suspect they won't fall down, especially with Dubois coming in the lineup. It's going to be a rough year for Ottawa fans, unfortunately, but yeah, it is what it is. Matt Murray, that's all I got to say. Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah, oof. Big L on there. Big oof. Let's move on to the rest of the league roundup here. We should touch quickly. COVID is wreaking havoc in the U.S. markets right now. I believe it's Minnesota, Buffalo, New Jersey, and Colorado, all 4 teams that have games postponed, with Buffalo in particular being quite upset as they played the New Jersey Devils, and that's sort of how that spread to Buffalo. We saw Ralph Kruger, the head coach, testing positive, and Colorado has had their games postponed due to this, which in turn might be a bit of a good thing because Nathan MacKinnon did go down with an injury, missing some time. He's currently week to week, so maybe that's a little bit of a blessing in disguise. Get him back and not miss quite as many games as maybe initially thought.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big blow for the Avalanche, who have already struggled a little bit. I mean, struggled. They're 7-3, but they didn't get off to the greatest of starts. I think they went like something like 3-5 or something like that to start the season. Or sorry, 3-3 or something like that to start the season. Which
their first 6 games were very underwhelming.
Yeah.
Just
they've since turned it on.
I
mean, they've got the last 9 out of 10 points, so you can't really complain with that. They're a deep team. I don't suspect they're going to fall back too far. Mainly being they're in the West Division, and the bottom 4 teams in the West Division are junk right now. So they'll be fine. Hopefully, he's okay. What do you know what it was? Was it lower body or
lower body? I didn't see the play that actually where it happened, but lower body week to week. With I think the news came out that their games are postponed until at least February 11th, so that'll be a week already at that time. So I imagine he'll probably only miss like 2 or 3 games, but a big loss nonetheless. But we know they're deep, they're good. Cale Makar has been unbelievable this year.
Did you see that fake he did at the blue line that sent the Minnesota Wild guy just flying?
Broke his ankles, the old ankle breaker, as that's called in the NBA. But yeah, he might get in the Norris conversation this year. He's been that good. But yeah, Cale Makar off to a roaring start. Anything else in particular from around the league that you want to touch on? I think we be reminiscent to mention that Florida has not lost in regulation this year.
I was going to say Florida, but before we move off from the Avalanche, just one point. They lost Rantanen for a month and a half last year. They've lost Landeskog for stretches of the time and been fine, so I don't expect it to be any different for MacKinnon. They're going to be fine. Definitely,
and when they're first in the division right now, tied with St. Louis, actually the exact same records, winning percentage, all that stuff. So they've given themselves a little bit of a cushion, even if they struggle for a couple games without MacKinnon. But Florida, I can't believe Florida 6-0-2 to start the season, despite Sergei Bobrovsky not looking too good. No, he's letting a lot of stinkers, a lot of beach balls. Yeah, a lot of beach balls going past Bobrovsky. And then there was that crazy game against Nashville the other day where Nashville, I believe, ended up winning 6-5 in overtime. But, yeah, I mean, Florida, who would have thought that, eh? Central Division, the top 2 teams, obviously Tampa Bay, not surprising at all. But Florida going in there, number 2, they've only played 8 games as well. Obviously, of course, they were one of the teams affected by COVID with Dallas. They were open the season against Dallas, which of course had that outbreak. So they've only played 8 games, but have already racked up 14 points out of
that division's
16.
a little misleading because it's been decimated by COVID. So Dallas is in 6th place in that division, but their record's 5-2-1 because they've only played 8 games. So I suspect that'll even out. Carolina's marching up the standings now. They're 6-2. They've only played 8 games. I suspect Dallas and Carolina will overtake Columbus in that pretty shortly here once all the games even out. But yeah, no, I did not see Florida coming. I mean, I knew they're okay. Like they're complete. They don't get talked about enough, I don't think, because they were in Florida. I mean, they got some good talent on that team, but they also did lose some good talent too, and Dandenov and Hoffman going out the door too. So, yeah, that was definitely a surprise. I'm glad you brought that up. I definitely wanted to talk about Florida.
We always know they can score. It's can they keep the puck out of it?
Yeah, exactly. Want to talk about the Mass Mutual East Division too. Boston.
Yeah, I'm taking an L on that one too.
You're taking an L on that one. Leading the division with a record of 8-1-2 without Pasternak for 10 of those 11 games. Yeah. So without their number 1 scorer in the lineup, that's pretty damn good and a pretty stacked murderer's row division, I would say.
Yeah, and Pasternak had the hat trick last game, I believe, and including the OT winner. So he stepped right back into the lineup and been a force. So Boston looking good again. A team that's not looking so hot, the New York Islanders.
I was going to say that's my disappointment for the season so far.
Yeah, and I picked them not to make the playoffs, I believe, but I didn't pick them to be last in the division. Only 8 points out of their first 9 games, despite Matthew Barzal being an absolute stud again. But they have been struggling so far. Goaltending for sure.
They haven't got the goaltending that they had in the playoffs last year.
Definitely, and yeah, they have. And then offensively as well, they've only scored 19 goals in 9 games. So that's a huge issue as well. Every other team in that division has scored at least 23, and then everyone else hovering around 30 to 35. So not good look for the Islanders there. But anything else from the East Division? Obviously, the Rangers were in the headlines this past week as well.
Yeah. I was going to bring up the Rangers. I think they're moving in the right direction now. They had a little bit of a rough start, but over the last 4 games, they're 3-1, 3 and an overtime loss. So no points in 4 straight. And they're starting to march out of the basement there. They're only 4 points out of 3rd place in the division there. So glad to see them turn around, because I know you and I had kind of predict them to be 4-5 somewhere in the middle of it, which they're marching towards. Jersey's a little bit of a surprise. They're doing a little bit better than I thought they would. Yeah. I thought they'd be down in the basement with Buffalo in this division. But you know, they're 4-3-2, a lot better than what things were or people were predicting from them, from a young team that's rebuilding. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I'm not surprised by the top 4 teams in this division, which are Philly, Washington, Pittsburgh, and Boston, as I already mentioned. Pittsburgh was looking a little iffy there too, but they seem to have it turned around a little bit. Yeah. They're starting to get a little bit more consistent. But I think Boston and Philly are going to be 1-2 in this division for the entire stretch of the season. So Washington, they're doing okay, but they're not. I mean, they were without the Russian quadrant for COVID reasons for not majority, but 4 or 5 games, whatever they got suspended for. They haven't been getting the goaltending. That's why they're slipped in the standings a little bit. Samsonov has not been fantastic like he was previous years, or backstopping Holtby the previous year. So they're not doing as well as people give or thought they would. So hopefully they can get it turned around. But who knows?
Yes, and one more surprise that I want to bring up is going back to the Discover Central division here. Our preseason predictions, we had Chicago finishing dead last, and I still think they'll be at the bottom. But the biggest question mark was who's going to stop pucks for them. Subban Delia, not really an NHL combo in my opinion, but we knew that they had this prospect that they were very high on, Kevin Lankinen, and he has been an absolute stud for them so far this year.
Yeah, isn't that cool to see? Just someone come out of nowhere?
Yeah.
A la Jordan Binnington.
Yeah, who also has regained a little bit of his form after maybe falling back down to earth last year. But just the numbers on Kevin Lankinen here. In 8 games, he's got a 2.32 goals against and a 928 save percentage. So
yeah, that'll get it done.
Looks like, I mean, obviously small sample size, but it looks like Chicago's found their goalie of the future, and he's putting the team on his back this year. Obviously, with all their defensive struggles that they have, but
minus Taves too,
minus Taves as well, which is a huge one. And they are currently in 5th in the Discover Central, tied with Carolina for 4th, but Carolina does have 4 games in hand, and then as well Dallas behind them, only 1 point behind them with 4 games in hand. So I still think that
they're only 3 points out of first. Chicago.
True. Tampa Bay does have.
Yeah, lots of games. I know.
Yeah,
but
so I still think they're going to miss just because of Dallas and Carolina and Columbus. I still think they're going to be up there in the top 5, but definitely not going to be as bad as maybe we thought they were after that rough start they had.
Question for you on the playoff format this year. I'm not familiar with it. Is it? I know the top 4 teams in each division make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Do they play rounds within the division before they get out of the division? Okay.
So basically that means you're guaranteed to have a Canadian team in the conference finals in the last 4. So it's going to be division the whole way until the final 4 is what I understand. So right now, so just looking at the standings.
The Leafs might make it this year because they don't have to play Boston until the Eastern Conference.
Exactly. Right now in the North, it would be Montreal.
Well, assuming they make it out of the East Division, of course. But
exactly. Montreal and Edmonton would be playing right now, and then Toronto, Winnipeg, and then obviously the winners of those would play, and then the winner of that would play. I'm not sure which division they would play. I assume it's probably the West.
They probably seat them when they're down to 4.
Maybe, yeah, that could be it too. Oh yeah, because I think it was RA from Spit and Chicklets put out a tweet that just a reminder that we could get a Montreal-Boston Stanley Cup final this year.
Yeah.
So that would be cool to see. Obviously, with their regular setup, we wouldn't be able to see that as they're both in the East. Maybe this will sort of give the NHL something to think about in terms of future playoff formats. I assume they'll probably just go right back to the old thing or old way of things, but maybe if enough fans and enough teams around the league like this, maybe they'll give it a second thought and continue with this sort of setup.
I like the divisions personally. Mm-hmm. There are some weaker ones, unfortunately, but you're going to have that no matter which way you divide the teams up. Mm-hmm. But I don't like playing, like, for example, playing Winnipeg 5 times in a row. That sucks, in my opinion.
Yeah, 4 what is it? 4 out of 5 games here for the Flames. I think that's a little bit overkill. I mean, in terms of going forward logistically, I think it would make sense for the league to kind of play maybe 2 games in a city before you move on to another one, so that you don't have to go there multiple times a year. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, back-to-backs are fine, but when you're playing the same team 4 or 5 times in a row, it's like, come on, this isn't the playoffs.
3 games or 4 or 5 games in a row is too much, but I would like to see the league sort of switch to this, 2 games in Winnipeg, 2 games in Toronto. Like, if you're a player, like, would you not want to only go to a city once instead of going, maybe 1 game here, 1 game there, back home, and then back out on the road? Like, for me, if I was a player, I know I'd rather do 2 games in Winnipeg, 2 games in Edmonton, 2 games in Vancouver, and then come home, so that you don't have to do that trip again later in the season. But obviously, the schedule makers, that's a hard job. Not sure I'd want it, but just something to think about. But want to move on to the next topic we got on here.
Hold on. We got to talk about Mr. Ovechkin.
Yeah, that's what I was going to move on to. So Alexander Ovechkin in Thursday's game against the New York passes Mike Gartner on the all-time goal list for 7th all-time with 709 goals. Now only 7 goals behind Phil Esposito. So despite missing some games, still making history, Alexander Ovechkin is.
Yeah, I mean, and I suspect he's probably going to get up to, Jaromir Jagr's spot, third on this list before he's done. I think he's going to have a hard time catching Gretzky just because I know Ovechkin's getting up there. But unfortunately, he's going to be bit by 2 shortened seasons in a row. So, I mean, he's
and lost, a lockout too.
And a lockout, yeah.
Yeah.
So he lost a lot of games there. Because when you think about this, the only player, I'm just looking in the top 15 here, that's played less games than him on this list is Mario Lemieux at 915. Mario Lemieux is 11th on the list. The rest of these guys easily have 100 to 200 more games played than Ovechkin right now, including, well, of course, Gordie Howe played till he was like 50 almost. So that's a little bit of a misnomer. You're not going to play till you're 50 anymore. That's for sure. But yeah, I mean, Gretzky played almost 1,500 games. Jagr's got 1,700 games. Hull, 4th on the list, has 1,200 games. Dion 1,300, Esposito 1,200, and Ovechkin is just at 1,100. So, and he's only what's the math here? Carry the one, 8 goals behind Esposito for 6, and then another 15 or so to catch Dion. So, if he has a good year, he can definitely jump into 5th place on this list all time. And then I think next year he'll probably overtake Hull and Jagr and be 3rd on this list. So it's kind of cool to see a modern day player creeping up the standings like that.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, it's a shame that he's going to miss out on a lot of games because, as you recall, he was the first overall pick in 2004, but of course the lockout was the 04-05 season. And this dude stepped in right away in 05-06, scored 52 goals. So if he would have got another year right after his draft year, you could argue that's probably another 40 at least. And then 12-13 obviously was shortened. Had 32 goals in 48 games that season. And then, of course, last year, the shortened season had 48 and 68. Could have potentially had 60 last year. And then obviously it's only going to be a shortened season this season as well. So unfortunately, I think that's going to hold him back from challenging Gretzky for that overall title. But he's definitely going to make a run of it. And I definitely think he can get it into at least 3rd, which would be awesome to see. I know Gretzky would probably be the first guy to congratulate him. He seems to be that sort of guy, but I don't think Gretzky's that kind of guy where he's like, no, I want to hold the records for the rest of my life. Like it's okay if one of his records gets broken.
Yeah,
he'll just have every other record.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing that needs to be mentioned here too, as well, is it's a lot harder to score in the modern day NHL than it was in Gretzky's era. So I know I'll probably take a little heat for that comment, but it's true. I mean, goaltending is far superior in the league right now than what it was back in the day. And that's not knocking any good goalies from back in the day, like Mike Vernon or anybody like that. It's just the way the game is.
Yeah, the way the game was with smaller equipment. The style, the butterfly wasn't really around when Gretzky was playing either. Not that Gretzky probably couldn't adjust and still score a lot of goals, but just different games. But it's nice to see Ovechkin just continually lighting the lamp year after year.
Yeah, definitely one of the best natural goal scorers of all time. I mean, this list proves it, obviously, but I can't think of anyone really other than Gretzky. Maybe Lemieux, that had just the pure goal-scoring talent like Ovechkin does. But anyways, a name that I had no idea would be on this list in the top 15, Brendan Shanahan. I had no idea that he scored that many goals.
Yeah, he was always mucking around the front of the net there, so he put in quite a few. What was his overall?
14th on the list. He's played 1,500 games, 656 goals.
That's not bad.
That's pretty damn good. I had no idea he was up there on the list like that. That's just a name that would not pop into my head. I mean, when you're on the same list as Messier, Yzerman, Lemieux, Solane, Robitaille, Esposito, Yager, Howe, Gretzky, it's like Shanahan doesn't come to mind, but
Yeah. It was one of the premier power forwards in his time, but definitely didn't think he had that many goals. I thought he would have been like maybe top 25, but not top 15.
Yeah.
But Brendan Shanahan, a little bit of an underrated name there. But you want to move on to the next topic we got on here. Some big news coming out of the Team Canada, the Hockey Canada world, as Doug Armstrong has been named Team Canada GM for the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics. Any thoughts on that?
No, not really. Yeah, I mean, he's a hockey guy, so I get it. Doug Armstrong, he's the GM for the Sharks, right?
No. That's he's the GM of the Blues.
Oh, I'm getting confused.
You're thinking of Doug Wilson.
Doug Wilson. Oh, damn it. Yeah, whatever.
You really can't go wrong, really.
I was gonna say it's Canada. It's like,
yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure I could choose as good a hockey team as he can for this Winter Olympics. I mean,
it'll be interesting though whether he goes with the youth in Canada or the old guard or a mixture of both, because there's going to be some names on this team that are going to be left off that are going to be people are going to be scratching their heads. Like, I've heard talk that Crosby is going to be, a bubble guy for this new Team Canada.
Oh boy, that would cause some ripples, eh? Yeah. I mean, I guess it depends on how the rest of this season goes. But
when you think about it, Matthews, Marner.
No, Matthews is American.
Oh shit! Yeah, you're right. Sorry, Marner. Why did I say Matthews?
McDavid.
McDavid. Thank you. That's who I was trying to think of. Like all those young studs in the league, McKinnon. They're all.
Yeah, Marner.
They're all a little bit better, but Sid's got the experience, so I still think he's going to be on the team. I just heard rumblings that Sid could be a bubble guy for the Olympic team.
We'll have to see. And Doug Armstrong is joined in the management group by Ken Holland, Ron Francis, Don Sweeney, and then also someone who I didn't actually even know was working in hockey. I thought he was just retired. Roberto Luongo is going to be an assistant GM. I assume Bobby Lou is going to be probably, I would assume, sort of advising goalie advice on who should be the three goalies. That'll have to be a topic later on in the season when the content sort of dries up. Maybe after the season, we'll each
Carey Price. That's our goal.
Yeah, we'll each give our Olympic teams and have
decision made. Super easy. Carey Price.
Maybe a whole episode on who we'd pick for our Olympic team. But yeah, so some big news there, and he certainly got I wouldn't say an easy job, but an embarrassment of riches, especially up front. For the forward group to pick from. So we'll have to see where that storyline goes. But anything else?
Yeah, the key with picking. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Nope.
The key with picking an Olympic team is not about picking the top 12 forwards.
Yeah.
You got to pick a team. You got to pick people that are going to play on the penalty kill, and in certain situations, you got to get some, some grinding guys in there, some checkers and stuff like that too for succeeding against like the US and stuff, which would be a physical game and stuff like that. So it's not all about skill, although most of it is. You got to have a team dynamic there, not just skill.
Yeah, you gotta get guys to play roles. We saw that in 2010 with Jeff Carter, Mike Richards, Jonathan Taves. Jonathan Taves was pretty much a rookie at that point, but he was in the bottom six as that guy who could provide skill. Obviously, we know he's very skilled, but that grit and that little bit of sandpaper that they need at that tournament, and that was a huge key to success for the Olympic team in 2010. All right, you want to move on to our final topic here, which is a very important month. Black History Month is February. And it's being celebrated a little bit by Willie O'Ree getting his number retired by Boston, which is good to see. Obviously, Willie O'Ree, the first Black player to play in the NHL, sort of, inspired a lot of young Black people to get into the game. I know PK Subban, Wayne Simmons, even Anson Carter sort of looked up to him, and it's just another reminder of why that inclusion is so important. The more diverse the game, the better the game will be, in my opinion. And we're starting to see some diversity in NHL with Indian players as well. Jujhar Khaira of the Edmonton Oilers.
I don't think he's on the team this year, but
no, he's been playing. He's been playing.
Has he? Okay.
Yeah,
I thought he was taxi squad.
I know he was a little bit of a bubble player coming into camp, but he has played a few games at least. But, it's just good to get that representation in there. Just opens the game up for future generations in terms of inclusion. And, it's just the more diverse the game, the better the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's nice. Well, it definitely grows the game for sure. The inclusion within the NHL and all ranks of hockey, to be honest. It's not all about, the NHL. It's breaking down the barrier of entry into hockey in general because, hockey is a very expensive sport to play. So a lot of lower income, marginalized communities, they can't play hockey because they don't have the money. So there's a lot of programs and stuff that have been spun up to help lower that barrier and lower that bar so people can get out on the ice. Because, once you get those kids out on the ice, they're going to love it. It's just a lot of them have never tried it because it's so expensive for the equipment and for ice time and all that kind of stuff.
Especially ice time.
Yeah. So there's a large barrier to entry. And I'm not saying all Black communities are marginalized and a little bit lower on the income scale. That's not what I'm saying. It's marginalized communities in general. So there's a lot of work, and that's all being highlighted in Black History Month here by a lot of NHL teams and a lot of NHL organizations, and a lot of players themselves have spun up nonprofit organizations or things like that get those kids out on the ice, get them going, introduce the game of hockey. That's the important part about inclusion is, getting those kids and those teenagers and those adults. Even I've seen programs for adults too, and special needs kids out on the ice and enjoying the game of hockey. That grows the game, that makes the game stronger, and that only benefits everyone else who's a hockey fan. When you have a strong game, then you don't have to worry about fan bases and outside of COVID times, of course, and revenues and all that kind of stuff. The league's going strong, the game's going strong. That's good for everybody.
Yeah, and the more programs we see that help kids of all genders and backgrounds and races get into the game, the better it will be. And we see that locally with Kid Sport providing equipment. I think it's Jumpstart with Canadian Tire. We see Jonathan Taves is heavily involved in that. So combine that with Black History Month. It's good to see it getting celebrated and get some recognition from around the league, especially with a guy like Willie O'Ree, who, growing up, I didn't know about him. I had no idea who he was until this sort of has been highlighted. Obviously I knew about him before this season, but growing up, I couldn't tell you who the first black player in the NHL was, but nice to see him get in the spotlight, and he's getting his number retired in Boston, and hopefully it just continues the momentum of that diversity and inclusion that is so important going forward. But anything else you want to add, or should we move on to
one thing? Just as when you have the diversity, it leads to a diversity in opinions as well, and a diversity into talent outside of the game too. So it's all about breaking down barriers for these team organizations as well. So having diversity in the front office and in some of those higher level jobs, and that's both gender-wise, male and female, and race-wise too. It only leads to a better league. in my opinion. You're going to get lots of good ideas that come from folks that, maybe have thought hockey their entire lives. They're going to have a fresh perspective, fresh set of eyes on a lot of these things and a lot of these issues that the league is facing and how they can help. So I think it's good. It's great. I'm glad they're highlighting it.
Yeah, and one other thing I forgot to mention, Harnarayan Singh moving from the strictly Punjabi Hockey Night in Canada broadcast to the main broadcast, which was nice to see. I heard his first game called Edmonton, Vancouver. A little shaky to be expected with your first national television broadcast.
I don't even want to know what I would sound like.
Yeah, on the regular Hockey Night in Canada. So good to see him. I actually quite like him. He's a little bit of a different voice out there, but yeah, just another example of the diversity sort of paying off. And we know he's a hockey guy through and through. So that was a good to see. Want to move on to our final segment to finish off the show?
Yeah, sure. Let's move on. This is a fun one.
Yes, the OTI top 5 returns. This one going to be not hockey related, as it's a little bit themed with what's going on this weekend. The top 5 Super Bowl snacks.
Gotta love it.
Yes, we're gonna satisfy our inner fat childs right now. We're gonna just
that child never left me, buddy.
Yeah, I was gonna say I shouldn't really say inner. It's more just what we are. but obviously the Super Bowl going tomorrow, and we're gonna talk about what we're gonna be eating. So go ahead.
So in the OTI top 5, you can search all of our top 5 lists from this season using that hashtag on Twitter. So we've had lists, top Calder candidates for this 2021 season, top 5 pests. This is a fun one, top 5 Super Bowl snacks. Before we dive into it, just explaining the segment. So both Adam and I will run down our top 5 lists of the certain topic in this segment, and this is Super Bowl snacks. So before we jump into it, though, who are you picking in the Super Bowl?
Oh, I think this is going to be an all-time matchup. This is sort of a dream matchup for the NFL. The current GOAT against the guy who could be the GOAT in the future. Obviously, a lot has to happen for that to change the whole GOAT conversation, but I think at the end of the day, I think the Chiefs offense is just too good. So I'm going to say the Kansas City Chiefs are going to repeat as Super Bowl champions. It's going to be close. I think the spread right now is 3 points. I imagine it'll be right around there, maybe 3 or 4 points to decide the game. But I'm picking Patty Mahomes and the Chiefs to repeat.
Yeah, I mean, it is a dream matchup for sure. And just like, it's a cool storyline to see if Brady can do it outside of the Patriot organization with a lot of people saying it was actually Bill Belichick. That's why Brady was so successful. And here he is in the Super Bowl with another coach within the first year that he's out. So there's storylines all over the place. My heart says Kansas City because I do like Mahomes and I do like Kansas City. They're a fun team to watch. But my wallet says Tom Brady. I don't think you can bet against him in the Super Bowl ever.
Yeah. I mean, you can't really go wrong either way. I mean, it's tough to get a bet against Brady for sure. So I can't wait to watch it. It's going to be outstanding. And Tom Brady has a chance to become the most winning pro sports athlete in history, I believe. He's tied right now with Michael Jordan at 6 titles. So I think if he wins one more, he'll probably sort of be considered even a level above Michael Jordan, which is hard to do. So,
yeah, no kidding.
All right, let's get into the snacks, though. That's the most important.
All right, that's the important thing here. Okay,
snacks.
What are we eating tomorrow? What are we
gonna put in our face holes tomorrow?
Adam, go ahead and start off your list with number 5.
Oh, I should actually bring it up here. I have it on my phone. Quick honorable mention right off the bat. This might be a bit of a spicy take, but chicken wings are my honorable mention.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
No way, really?
Yeah. I mean, maybe I cheated a little bit because maybe these aren't considered snacks, 2 of my choice, but first of all, I'm going to start off. My number 5 This is my go-to chip flavor. This is my number one chip flavor of all time, and it is the Ruffles all dressed.
Oh yeah, well done.
You get a bag of
Applause
those
sound
going.
effect.
Yeah, you get a bag of those going. I mean, that's the number one overall pick for me in a chip draft.
In a chip draft.
That's my number 5 pick. Ruffles all dressed. You get a little bit of the sourness. You get a little spice, salty, little hint of sweetness in there too. Love the all dressed.
Nice, good pick. I actually don't have any potato chips on my top 5 list. That would be my honorable mention. Is a couple flavors of potato chips. All dressed is potato chips. Is definitely high on my list. I also am a big fan of dill pickle and salt vinegar too. So those are always on the table as well. Number 5 on my list, I kind of went with some stuff. So Super Bowl snacks to me are things you don't have on an everyday basis. You know, things that are sprawled out on the coffee table. Where are you going? What are you taking? So number 5 for me, buffalo chicken dip. Oh, baby. I don't know if you guys have had buffalo chicken dip before, but it is a new word, scrumptious.
You might be hearing that later on in my top 5.
Oh, there you go. Man, it's good. So dipping taco chips into buffalo chicken dip, essentially cream cheese, cheddar cheese, some bacon maybe, chicken and ranch and hot sauce, all in a warm dip. It is really good, and it's one of my favorites. That's number 5 on my list, buffalo chicken dip.
All right. Couldn't agree more, brother. Number 4 for me, moving on. This one, I guess maybe I shouldn't have put this one on here, but it's not considered a snack per se, but very essential part of Super Bowl Sunday, the drinks. I'm putting some Ryan Cokes in there. That's my number 4. Get some Crown Royal, and then, you know, a little bit half and half with the Coke.
You're Western Canadian through and through with your Ryan Cokes, eh?
Exactly, man. It's just my go-to drink, Crown Royal and Coke. That's number 4 for me. Might have 2 or 3, 4, 6, 18 tomorrow. Who knows?
There we go. Maybe we should get a Zoom chat going for the Super Bowl. That'd be fun.
Definitely. I'm down.
Okay, cool. Number 4 on my list. I went a little off board with this one. A favorite in our house, ginger beef. So those either those frozen packages you can get from the supermarket and bake the beef themselves and then put the sauce on, or bringing it in from somewhere. But it's, what we like to do is take ginger beef, make a little lettuce wrap with it, you know, put a couple pickled vegetables on there, wrap it up in a piece of lettuce and down the hatch.
All right. I mean, I'm partial to ginger beef myself. I didn't think of it for this, but I like where your head's at.
Yeah, they're delicious.
Especially that
finger food too.
Exactly, that lettuce wrap sort of taco you got going on there.
Yeah,
that would be. Might have to read.
That's my off the board pick. A lot of people will be like, "What? What the hell is that?"
My mouth is watering at this point. But so number 3 for me. Moving on, I had to get a sweet in there. Obviously, when you think of Super Bowl snacks, a lot of salt comes to mind. A lot of maybe some grease. But I had to throw some sweetness in there. I do have a bit of a sweet tooth, so I'm going with my number 1 sweet tooth item, and that is Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Number 3 on my list.
Oh, really?
I love these things. If you look at my blood type, it might be Reese's Peanut Butter Cup positive.
It might be PB.
Yeah. RPBC positive might be my blood type.
That's
so
funny.
Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, my number 3 pick.
Nice. Yeah, you know, I can see mixing the sweet in there. I did not mix the sweet in there. I'm all about the savory and the salty especially on Super Bowl. Just sports in general, to be honest. But good pick. I like that. Number 3 on my list. I'm going with the charcuterie board. Okay. So it's kind of a mixture of a lot of things, but you know, the basic charcuterie board. You got the cured meats in tube form. So your salamis. Your pastrami's, those kind of things, just delicious, tasty meat. Prosciutto, yep. One of my favorites is peppered elk salami that we always put on there. Oh man, it's really good. Stuff like that. So those fancy meats, obviously some nice cheese. I'm not a huge cheese guy, but my favorite is like a double smoked old cheddar that has a nice smoky flavor. That's my favorite. Yeah, really good. And some pickled veg. That's what we put on ours too. So olives, pickles, some pickled onions and carrots for your cheese and crack. Oh, of course, crackers. Sorry, I forgot to mention
Yeah, I was
crackers.
gonna say, what kind of crackers you rolling with?
We like the big Breton crackers here, but we also
Mhm.
like just like the plain like stoned wheat thin crackers that have a little bit of the coarse salt on them. But yeah, charcuterie board number 3 for me.
Yeah, I'm always partial to a nice cheese and cracker type of, cheese, sausage, and cracker type of plate. So
You can mix it up
charcuterie,
too, throw a little veggies and dip on
yeah,
there and stuff too. You
some
know,
pickled beans, some pickled asparagus, pickled onions,
there you go.
stuff like that. Now, I don't have that on my board or on my top 5, but I'm going to put that in the honorable mentions as well. Nice charcuterie board. But for my big main spread, number 2 on my list, I'm going with nachos. Nachos. I mean, this is one where you can get really creative. You want to throw some spicy chicken, some ground beef, whatever, some bacon, some jalapenos, some sour cream, as my buddy Ollie knows I love a little bit of sour cream with my and not a little bit, a lot of sour cream with my nachos. But you get the cheese, you get the green onions, you get the hot peppers, and a little bit, maybe a little hot sauce on there. Number 2,
Little
nachos.
guacamole.
Guac, yeah. If you get the right guac, I like my guac a little chunky.
Nice.
I don't like that liquefied stuff. So nachos, my number 2.
So are you in what nacho camp are you in? Are you in the real cheese or the fake goopy cheese that you get at the Saddle Dome?
Real cheese, 100%.
Real cheese? You're not a queso guy?
Well, there's a difference. Not that fake liquid cheese. If it's queso dip, I feel it's a little bit better. But that stuff that you pull the lever down and it just oozes out.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I'm a real cheese guy too. That just
that
turns
stuff.
my stomach.
Gross.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
What's your number 2?
All right, number 2 is kind of a little bit off the board. Not too much. Homemade pizza for me.
Ooh.
A lot of people have pizza at their Super Bowl parties, but my wife makes a fantastic homemade pizza, in specific homemade pizza dough. I put it up against most pizza restaurants, to be honest. It's that good. So we make homemade pizza all the time because we live rural, so there's not really pizza delivery out here anyways.
Yeah.
But in particular, so this is what you do. You make the homemade pizza dough, and on top you cut up some of those pepperoni sticks, you get at the grocery store. You put crumble some sausage in there too, and some real bacon bits, so chopped up pieces of bacon. You throw that into a frying pan, let that all crisp up nice. Then you dump that on top of cheese and tomato sauce, of course. But then you use all the fat that comes off that, and you saute up some onions and put on top of that too. Yeah. And then finish it off with some mushrooms. Ooh, I'm getting hungry.
Oh, you're speaking to the chef in me, right?
Yeah. Now. Oh man, it is
using
fantastic.
that fat to saute the onions. That's a chef move right there.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people.
Amateur chef here, of course, not professional like you.
But no, I like it. I love it.
Yeah, number 2 on my list, homemade pizza. Delicious. Love it.
Now, I mean, obviously pizza is my favorite food of all time, but for me, it wasn't on my list because I sort of eat it too often. So I want it, I want my Super Bowl snack to be something other than what I eat all the time. So pizza, not on my list, even though it is my favorite. But number 1, as I mentioned, it's already been on your list. It's going to be on my list now. Buffalo chicken dip.
Oh, number 1.
Number 1, man. I could eat a whole dish of this thing to myself. Not an issue. You just give me a bag of taco chips and, a vat of buffalo chicken dip, and I'll go to town. I won't feel good for the rest of the night, but I love it nonetheless.
Yeah. No, it is one of my favorites too. That's why it's on the list. I chose number 5. You chose number 1. So
yeah, buffalo chicken dip.
That's
number 1.
That's why I always have to elbow you out of the way at our family functions to get in that buffalo chicken dip.
Yeah, I put up the bows, and I try to keep everyone out. This is mine right here.
That's funny. All right, that's a good list. Number 1 for me, the staple at every sporting, but every pub. that you're watching sports in, it's chicken wings for me. I love my chicken wings.
Yeah.
Honorable mention for you. They didn't even crack your list, which is a travesty in its own right. But me, I love my chicken wings. My wife loves the chicken wing too, and I'm assuming my 3-month-old daughter, when she starts eating solid food, is gonna love chicken wings too. So, in particular, I like 3 different kinds of chicken wings. So I'm not just going like a one on the plate there. I like those crispy hot ones that are like super spicy but no sauce. Like they're just like
they've sort of been baked.
Yeah, like a spicy like spice, not sauce spice.
Mm-hmm.
They're fantastic. Obviously, I'm a traditionalist. I love my buffalo wings, hot wings, but I'm also a fiend for barbecue. I love barbecued wings. So yeah, that's it's not Super Bowl without wings for me.
All right, fair enough. The reason I didn't have them on my top 5 is because they're just, they're just a little bit messy to eat. I'm a little bit of a, I like to eat with a fork or dip a chip, something like that, just something quick, get them off the hands. Now, if we're talking boneless wings, I might have had them in my top 5, but yeah, that's the reason why I don't have them. But obviously, you don't mind getting in there a little bit.
You notice the theme on mine. Mine are all finger food.
Yeah.
for Super Bowl.
All righty, there are our OTI top 5 Super Bowl snacks.
Get them down one more time.
So for me, number 5, Ruffles all dressed chips. Have to be Ruffles though. Those are the best all dressed chips. Didn't mention that. Number 4, Ryan Cokes. Number 3, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Number 2, Nachos. I got to say it like Rhett Warner does on the food montage for the morning show. You get those nachos.
Nachos.
And then number 1, hands down, buffalo chicken dip.
Well done. So my OTI top 5 Super Bowl snacks list recap. Number 5, buffalo chicken dip and taco chips, just like Adam. It is delicious. Number 4, crispy ginger beef with lettuce wraps. Oh, I might have that for dinner tonight, actually. That sounds delicious.
What is this vegetable nonsense?
You got to mix in a little bit.
No,
Come on. You got to function the next day.
Yeah.
Number 3, I'm a sucker for a good charcuterie board. Meat, cheese, and pickled veg. Love it. Number 2, homemade pizza, pepperoni, sausage, bacon, sauteed onions, and mush, aka mushrooms. The typical Canadian pizza you see at a lot of joints. Mm-hmm. And number 1 for me, definitely wings for sure. It ain't Super Bowl without some chicken wings.
All right. Get at us with your top 5 Super Bowl snacks on our Twitter or Instagram at Off the Iron Pod or at Off the Iron Podcast. And be sure to use that hashtag OTI top 5. And let's get some engagement going. And we'll give you our opinions of your top 5 and see if they're up to snuff. Or if you got any
up to snuff,
or if you got any weird sort of, I like Caesar salad on Super Bowls. No, none of that junk. But yeah, get at us with that hashtag and looking forward to a good Super Bowl Sunday. Should be a good one. And I believe that wraps up the show. Any last thoughts for you, Evan?
No, it was fun list to go through. I'm pretty pumped and hungry at the same time. So I hear my early dinner calling me here. So as always, in COVID times, make sure you keep your head up. I know there's tough times for a lot of people out there, but like to thank all the listeners. Our listenership's grown pretty decently over the last couple months through COVID here. So appreciate all the listens, of course. Definitely get at us if you want us to discuss any certain topics. We'll give you a shout out on the episode that we discuss your topic and all that stuff. So, but keep your head up. Things are going to get better. All right. And with that, just a quick reminder that Off the Iron's brought to you by Rocky Mountain Barbecue Catering. Visit their website at www.rockymountainbarbecue.ca to request a free quote for your event needs when we actually can have events. As well, order online using the Chow Now app to pick up yourself a $12 lunch combo. That's a great app name, Chow Now. I like Chow Now. Chow Now brown cow. Every time it goes off. Chow Now. Don't forget to follow us on our social media pages or shoot us an email if you want us to discuss certain topics. We're on all the big platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, all Off the Iron Podcast or Off the Iron Pod.
as well, the Gmail, offtheironpodcast@gmail.com. But with that, we'll wrap the show up. Thanks again, everyone, for listening. Looking forward to a great Battle of Alberta tonight. And
Go Flames.
Go Flames, go. And we'll see you next time on the show.
All right. With that, we'll cue the music. Have a good one, everybody.